I am so excited to bring to you guys what I'm going to be bringing to you guys today. So, as you guys can tell, I am in a studio. Now, I have been working my ass off to find a studio to do videos for the YouTube channel on, and I finally found one. I Googled it and I thought it was fake. Then I went and checked it out and it was real. I will be now going into my playlist and going to the videos that I want to do commentaries on. But as you guys can tell from the thumbnail, we are going to be talking about Troy and deep diving on a scene that I found from the YouTube channel called From This Screen. He does a lot of deep dives from different films. He is someone that I have a lot of videos that I'm going to be reacting to, and I hope you guys enjoy that. Sit back, relax, and let's deep dive into this scene from Troy.
Today I want to zero in on what makes the Hector vs Achilles fight from the movie Troy so unforgettable. From the framing to the choreography, the visual language is working together to reinforce so much about both characters and the narrative. For those that don't know, the Hector vs Achilles fight is a climactic showdown that takes place towards the end of Troy. The fight is driven by personal loss and the relentless pursuit of honor.
I loved Troy so much when it first came out, watching it within the past 5-7 years, and I might even watch it within the next week because this film is so good. It holds up so well, and it shows masculinity at its finest. Out of control masculinity, like animalistic sort of masculinity, and then like masculinity from a guy who cares a lot about people. I think everybody in this film did really well. This is also a film that was done around a time where actors actually treated the projects with respect. The directors and the writers of the films that were being made back then respected their audience as well. That's one thing that the film has on its side. I'm also reacting to a video from the channel From the Screen. He does a lot of breakdowns of scenes from films, and I really enjoy the channel a lot. So I'll probably come back on and react to other videos that he has, but this film was just done so well that it could never be done again in present day. They would fuck it up.
You will wander the underworld blind, deaf, and dumb, and all the dead will know. This is Hector, the fool who thought he killed Achilles.
I don't know if you guys noticed it, but through that entire clip, Brad Pitt's character did not blink. You know how crazy of a person you have to be talking to someone for any length of time and not blink? Insane. But he did it so well. I don't know if anybody that could have done this character better than Brad Pitt.
Achilles, the greatest warrior of the Greeks, fights for glory and vengeance after his cousin Patroclus is killed in battle, mistakenly at the hands of Hector, the noble prince of Troy. He challenges Hector to a one-on-one duel outside the gates of Troy.
That was so sad. He was devastated himself because he did not have any intentions on killing the cousin. He honestly thought that he killed Achilles. He knew from killing the cousin what his ultimate fate was going to be, which made it even worse. As the viewer, liking the character of Hector, you already knew his fate, just like he already knew his fate.
Justice and retribution for his cousin. Hector is the polar opposite of Achilles.
Look at this punk ass bitch. I like Orlando Bloom as an actor. I haven't really seen him in anything recently, but outside of this film, I saw him in Pirates of the Caribbean. It's just crazy how this might have been the first time I've ever seen him, like in a serious role. And even though he was a punk ass bitch, he did, like I said, everybody in this film did really well. But it kind of sucks, like he was the downfall of everything that happened to the family because of his ridiculousness, and his brother had to suffer for it. This film got me when I watched it. I'm sure if I watch it now, it's going to get me again.
Man and dutiful leader who fights to protect his city and loved ones. Whereas Achilles is a relentless warrior driven by glory and immortality, a man fueled by ego, pride, and the desire to etch his name into history.
I ain't gonna lie, when that scene played out, I was like, oh, this film's going to be amazing. He's out here running and stabbing people. I loved everything about it.
Contrasting character traits perfectly set the stage for the duel between the two men. Up until this point, Hector has proven himself a formidable warrior, a strategic leader who charges into battle alongside his men, commanding respect through both skill and intellect. Achilles, on the other hand, is a force of nature. He doesn't fight battles, he ends them. Every opponent he's faced so far has fallen within seconds, showcasing a level of dominance that feels almost mythic in nature. This mythic quality is crucial to understanding his character and the fight itself. Much like how Peter Jackson...
I also like the fact how, with the masculinity of both these guys, like they have Achilles being like the animalistic, like I don't give a shit about people kind of vibe, even though he really does genuinely care about the people that he cares about. He's willing to do whatever it takes to protect them at any cost. He does it with his cousin. He does it with the girl that he ends up encountering that was taken as a slave. Had this way of being very masculine, very dangerous when need be. People respected him and feared him. I think it's more of a fear than a respect. But he genuinely cared about people. He wasn't like a pussy. He wasn't no pushover. He cared about people enough, but not enough to go against what he genuinely is all about, which is a badass motherfucker who's out here killing people when need be. You know, he's the killer on demand. If I had to consider anybody in this film a villain, it would be the Orlando Bloom character, because that bitch got everybody killed. Insanity. Man, I really hated his character.
Lord of the Rings as a medieval legend rooted in the distant past. Troy presents Achilles not as an untouchable demigod, but as a man operating at the peak of human potential. This portrayal makes him feel more real, more human, and ironically, more legendary. As a result, the fight feels less like a duel between man and demigod, but instead a fight between two elite warriors. The scene begins with the gate of Troy opening. We get a dolly forward pushing right into Hector's face. This dramatic shift from wide to close-up, paired with the music and the sound of the heavy creaky door, highlights the moment from Hector's perspective.
And also the audience knowing that as soon as he walks out that gate, he ain't going back. And man, that hurt the soul when I was watching this scene. I was like, oh, Hector is such a good guy. Man, you don't have to go out. I know you have to leave, but goddamn it sucked.
Dread of facing Achilles, the greatest Greek warrior. It's a simple yet effective visual and auditory cue that allows the audience to feel Hector's emotional state and the gravity of the moment. This is only further emphasized by the next cut, which features my favorite shot of the sequence, an over-the-shoulder shot from Hector's perspective, staring out at Achilles, who stands waiting for him. The frame is wide and empty, and one might assume that, in any other context, this composition would make Achilles appear small and weak.
Just from the beginning scene of them showing Achilles, that could have been his time to say whatever he had to say, and then once the fight started, he could have started charging at Hector, because he charged with the other guy. Like, he started off somewhat walking, and then he started picking up running, and then he started to speak. Yeah, that could have easily, like, that's terrifying to me. I don't know, that shot over shoulder, seeing him in that view, scary as hell. Only because we know what Achilles is capable of.
Its context, from Hector's perspective, Achilles seems enormous. The emptiness of the landscape serves to isolate Achilles, making him the only focus in Hector's line of sight. Achilles holds all the power in this moment. This simple shot, which could have easily been framed tighter to show more of Achilles' face, works perfectly to underscore both the narrative and the personal stakes for Hector. As Hector walks down to meet Achilles, they exchange dialogue about the events that led to this moment. The use of close-ups during this exchange emphasizes the gravity of their words, focusing on the intensity and the weight of what's being said.
Let us pledge that the winner will allow the loser all the proper funeral rituals.
There are no pacts between lions and men.
Ooh. I'm not gonna lie, when he said that, I got goosebumps when he first said that. When I first saw this film, I was like, oh, y'all ain't even on the same playing field. You think you fighting for loyalty or whatever. He's fighting because he needs to, because you killed his cousin. Like, y'all are not even on the same playing field right now.
Achilles and Hector both remove their helmets, a choice that is directly tied to the narrative. Hector killed Patroclus, thinking he was Achilles, as the helmet concealed his face, but it's also a brilliant storytelling decision. By revealing their faces, the fight is stripped down to just two men, their emotions and expressions.
Now you know who you're fighting.
Love. Oh my god, I love.
There's no formal unsheathing of swords or ceremonial stances. Achilles takes the first step towards Hector, initiating the fight entirely on his own terms. From this moment,
terrifying. He walks with such purpose. And just look how his legs are compared to Hector. Like, you could tell Hector does not really want to be there, but he has to. He has to be there. He knows his fate. He has to do what he has to do, even though he doesn't want to do it, but he has to.
Achilles dictates the flow of the battle, setting the tone and the pace that will persist throughout. As I mentioned before, Achilles is portrayed in the movie as a man at the peak of human potential, and it's this quality that defines his fighting style in this duel. While Hector is a formidable warrior fighting for his life, with every move driven by urgency and survival, Achilles moves with a very calculated confidence. The choreography of this fight emphasizes just how dominant Achilles is compared to Hector.
100%. The way Achilles is moving is so strong. Like, you can tell he fights to kill people, fights to end people's lives. Hector fights to protect people's lives. It's just crazy the intentions behind how they both fight as men.
His movements are undoubtedly human. There's an almost divine quality to them. His combat prowess is so exceptional that it feels like he's on the cusp of transcending human limitations. I want to point out a moment to me that clearly highlights Achilles' superiority over Hector. At around 40 seconds into the fight, Achilles is realizing that Hector isn't falling as quickly as other warriors he has faced. This moment marks a shift in the fight, as Achilles is forced to adjust, indicating that Hector is unlike anyone he's encountered before. Pay attention to what Achilles does with his shield before abandoning it. He raises it above his head and positions it in line with the vertical axis of his body. This shift in stance allows him to stay vertically balanced.
You know, it's funny, I watch these videos more because people are very technical and a lot smarter than me when they talk about things when it comes to films. I'm not really that, but it's really interesting to see what other people pick out of scenes that I wouldn't necessarily notice. Like, there are things that obviously that I like about a film that I can explain, but like noticing the vertical lines when it comes to him holding his shield, I would never have thought about that. I'd be like, oh shit, he that pose is intense. And then someone says what they say about the vertical lines, I'm like, oh yeah, that too.
To strike in a full 180-degree arc with his sword. This moment feels like a transition in the fight, a second act of sorts, with the first act having ended when the swords are unsheathed. In most sword fights on screen, the combatants typically trade blows in a repetitive back and forth until one finally gains the upper hand. Their fighting styles remain static, with victory only coming when one—
Look at that punk bitch just wobbling, looking all dumb.
It's a mistake. But in this fight, Achilles does something different. He adapts. It's almost as if Achilles is trying every tactic he knows on Hector. What further emphasizes this shift is the dramatic push-in on Achilles' face just before this sequence.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Like, he's looking, he's like, man, this fight is going on a little longer than expected. All right, plan B.
It's as if he's trying to engage more of his intellect in the fight rather than simply relying on raw warrior instincts. While he isn't shaken, there's a noticeable pause in his demeanor, a moment where he reassesses and adjusts his approach. The speed of the push-in shot mirrors the quickness of Achilles' thoughts, reinforcing that he's now strategically adapting rather than just relying.
Look at them arms, dude. I totally believe that's like genuinely Brad Pitt's body. Like, I don't think that's fake. I think he definitely worked out. You know, actors back in the day used to take their acting job seriously. So I totally believe that's his real arm. That shit is insane. Because he got fucking ripped for this film. Insanity. He was more ripped in this film than he was when he was in Legends of the Fall. Even though I don't think it was necessary for him to be this ripped in Legends of the Fall. But look at them guns.
The scene is littered with these small but telling details. Though subtle and happening quickly, they compound further to highlight Achilles' overwhelming superiority over Hector, further adding to his mythic yet grounded characterization. One thing worth noting in this fight is the camera as a whole. The choice to shoot the majority of the scene with a static camera rather than a handheld shaky one only helps to reinforce the idea that Achilles is in complete control.
Also reinforces the idea that actors really took their job seriously and we're able to see that it's actually the two actors fighting and not stunt doubles. It's a very deliberate choice on the director's part to allow the shots not be shaky, and I'm really happy because it would have been, first off, kind of unnecessary for this scene, for this time frame. It's good to be able to identify the actors fighting in that scene, which means that they took their job seriously and actually put the work in to make the scene even more believable.
Off camera gives a sense of clarity, power and grandness. Most of the shots are wide, allowing us to follow the action effortlessly. All this helps to mirror Achilles' calculated control over the fight, with all his moves appearing crisp and deliberate. I'll add a shaky camera effect to parts of the fight so you can see the difference it makes. Let me know if it feels right for a duel like this.
It doesn't. My head is starting to hurt, actually. Yeah, if they had done it, it wouldn't have been as effective. I already know for a fact.
Now, the majority of the fight is shot at eye level, which suggests that both men are on equal footing. However, every time Achilles performs his famous jump and stab move, the camera—
See what I mean? The camera's at eye level, so that means that both men are on equal footing. I wouldn't have thought of that. I'd be like, oh, this is a really cool shot. No, it's because they're both men are on equal footing. I would never have been able to pull that out of my ass as a opinion on the scene.
Every time Achilles performs his famous jump and stab move, the camera drops to a low angle, looking up at the attack. While this could easily be done simply for dramatic effect, I believe this low angle adds to the move's impact. It's something to be feared as we look up at it, subtly enhancing an Achilles' almost otherworldly fighting style. As the fight progresses,
I also think it's kind of impressive because even at the beginning of the film, when he jumps and kills that first guy, it wasn't shot from the ground, but the fact that they showed all of it in one shot, like him actually jumping and doing it, is actually impressive. Like, it's actually impressive to see how his body moved to get that shot when he's doing it in this scene with Hector. It's very impressive to see because it just shows how much commitment he made to making this believable.
tension builds, and we find ourselves completely glued to the screen. The standout moment comes when Hector manages to slash Achilles' armor, and Achilles pauses, stunned by the strike. This moment is another brilliant piece of characterization, highlighting the mystery of the character and how no opponent has ever come this close to harming him before. Now, I won't break down the entire edit, but I should say that the editing throughout the entire fight is flawless. We're never confused about who is where or what they're doing. One standout choice, which I will bring attention to, is the extreme wide shot right before Achilles delivers the final strike that kills Hector. This cut gives the audience a moment to breathe, almost like a calm before the storm. It's also the first extreme wide shot we've seen during the fight, which on an unconscious level signals that something significant is about to happen.
Okay, I'm glad he said that, 'cause I was literally about to say that. I'm like, no. Showing his family looking down, like everything's in view. And Hector's at his weakest point right now. We're seeing the family looking at everything, knowing what's about to happen, which is sucky. That shot made me realize, oh, we're coming to the end of someone's life, and now we see the family and where they're at, watching the end of someone's life.
And allows us to emotionally prepare for Hector's death, rather than staying tight on the action and letting the strike happen without warning.
Right.
Achilles drives the spear tip into Hector's chest, forcing him to his knees. Then comes the iconic finishing move. Achilles steps back, steadies himself, and lunges forward with a theatrical precision, driving his sword into Hector and bringing the fight to its brutal end.
So warrior-like of him to do that. He could have done anything, but the way he positioned himself to drive it into his chest, it was just done so well.
I genuinely believe this ranks as one of the best choreographed sword fights in cinema. What makes it timeless isn't just the skillful combat or the raw intensity, it's the story being told through every moment. This isn't just two elite warriors clashing swords, it's a clash of ideals, motivations, and character.
Troy is definitely one of those films that will go down top 10, one of my favorite films. Done well, directed well, shot well. It was just done so well. I don't understand how films nowadays are just missing the mark. And this was done like 20 years ago. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you're always notified about the new videos that I have coming out. Let me know in the comments below, have you seen Troy? What is your thoughts on it? Do you think that that scene was shot and choreographed really well? And was it intense for you when you first saw it? And if you haven't seen it, what are you doing? You are missing out on a gem, a beautiful gem that was made during a time where films were taken seriously, writers and directors respected their audience, and actors understood the job. They understood the assignment and they were willing to do whatever it took to get the job done. I just want to know. Let me know in the comments below. I'll be very intrigued to read what you guys think. I have a website, allierobbins.com, and up there you can find my podcast and my Patreon and everything that I do outside of YouTube. It's a fun time. The links for that will be in the description bar below. I love you all. I hope to have you all come back for the next video.